Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for The Walking Dead Season 8. This is going to be my review for Season 8, Episode 10, called The Lost and the Plunderers. Overall, Episode 10, I really enjoyed it. I think it was one of the better episodes, or one of the best episodes even, that we've seen in a long time. And it definitely had some very interesting and exciting, even shocking moments that I think were very cool to see. So starting off, one thing that I do want to mention that I don't know why they did, but in my opinion it didn't work, and it was the title cards. So having the names of the characters at the beginning every time the episode kind of started up again. We had one for Rick, one for Negan, one for Michonne, one for Jadis. I don't think that it worked. I know what they were going for. It was like we were looking at that character's part of the story, or their storyline, or what they're basically witnessing or seeing, or how that event is going to change them. So basically, that event that we saw in that section of the episode was the part that impacted that character whose name was shown the most. But in my opinion, it just didn't work. I don't know why, but I don't feel like it really worked. It's not the type of thing that Walking Dead does, and I don't think that it really worked. But that might just have been me. But going from there, getting to some of the positives of the episode, the Negan versus Simon scene, I absolutely loved that. I think that both the acting on both Stephen Ogg as Simon and Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Negan's part, and also the whole kind of tension that was building between those characters, was definitely exciting. I definitely found myself getting more tense with everything that was going on, and with every kind of back and forth between Negan and Simon. So that whole sequence where we had Negan versus Simon, the back and forth, and the kind of tension that was building up, I absolutely loved that. The part that's kind of related is Simon going to the junkyard, the scavengers, and killing them all. Now, I absolutely loved that part as well. I did predict it. For those of you that might have seen my predictions, you know that I did anticipate or predict that this might happen, but just seeing it on screen was very interesting, very cool to see. And I love Stephen Ogg as Simon. There's just something about his performance, something about the way he brings this character forward that is very interesting and very exciting to see. The part where Rick and Michonne actually go to the junkyard, that part was cool, but at the same time, I feel like they should have just kind of had the storyline play out. They could have just made it all play out at once, not go back and forth, not play with the time. So I feel like I understand why they did that, so that there will be some sort of mystery, but at the same time, given that they did kind of show it in the teasers, and with that we kind of predicted what's going to happen, they didn't really need to do that. So that was a little iffy in my part, but the whole kind of exchange between Rick and Jadis was definitely cool to see, and just seeing how that turn of events changed Jadis was definitely exciting, and kind of hearing a bit about her backstory. But at the same time, she wasn't an interesting character to begin with, so you could go both ways with that. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Jadis, what she does, and whether she's going to come back. She's still alive, and I'm sure that she's going to play a major part, or a part at least, in the war coming up. So it's going to be interesting to see what that's about. There is one thing that I do want to mention, back to them playing with time a little bit. If you notice, we saw the blue paint on Simon's boots, and we did see Rick kind of going there and seeing the blue paint on the ground. But that part with Rick happened first. So that was a way for them to kind of play with time in a way that adds mystery. So that we're like wondering what happened, looking at the blue paint. They even kind of concentrated on it a little bit, and then going back to it later on once they're basically revealing what actually happened. So that was cool, but at the same time, I feel like they didn't need to do it, because they did more or less reveal what's going to happen there. At least gave us enough for us to be able to predict everything. Then the part with Jadis after her people were killed by Simon, we had Jadis basically putting all of her people in the shredder, in the human shredder. That was disgusting. That was one of the most disgusting, brutal things we've seen in a while. I would say the closest thing would be the Glenn and Ape death, but we haven't seen something this brutal and gross since then. But I liked it, even though it was brutal, disgusting. It was funny to see, and not funny, but it was cool to see. I don't want to sound like a psychopath or anything. It was cool to see. That last couple scenes with Negan and Rick, I absolutely loved that. The whole exchange, the whole back and forth, I absolutely loved it. I think that in that moment, we saw a heart-to-heart conversation between Rick and Negan. More from Negan than Rick, because Rick just kept saying, I want to kill you, I'm going to kill you. But from Negan's end, he kind of put aside all of the bullshit. He put aside all of the kind of, I'm better than you, I'm the leader, you know, you're obedient to me and everything. He put that all aside and just talked to Rick in a way that, you know, they are equal, in an equal kind of way, if you know what I mean. But I absolutely loved that. Now, there's a part from that sequence that I don't really understand. One thing is why Negan actually cared about Carl, because he was going to kill Carl, if you remember. He was going to kill Carl in the finale of season 7, if you remember. So I don't understand how all of a sudden Negan has this kind of bond with Carl and how he was like heartbroken. I understand that a little bit because they did have that connection, but at the same time, Negan was going to kill Carl. So what happened? They should have at least shown us how he changed his mind about Carl and, you know, what led to him saying he's going to be the kid that I want alive. He's going to be someone that I'm going to protect, even in the war. So that's the only kind of main negative from this episode. But going back to that whole conversation between Rick and Negan, Rick's decision to want to kill Negan and to kind of be persistent about it is something that gets me very interested but confused, because we know what's coming based on the comics if they don't remix the story. So how are they going to make everything work out if Rick keeps saying, I want to kill you, I want to kill you? So that's a little bit of me kind of being very interested how they're going to pull it off when they're doing this, when they're putting out all of these kind of scenes with Rick saying, I'm going to kill you. But that's not really a negative. That's kind of more of me being very interested in what they're going to do. And then the last thing that I do want to mention is Enid and Erin at Oceanside. So we do see that they let him go, obviously. But Erin is going to stay. I don't know what he's going to do and how he's going to do it. But, you know, he's going to try to get Oceanside on board still, which I don't think is a good idea. Just leave, because you've attempted over and over and you've caused some people to die. You know, Netanya was the latest one because of this kind of attempt to try to get him on board. So just stop that. But at the same time, that whole kind of resolution to that scene was underwhelming. It was weak because they just let him go. They just agreed that they won't kill him. I felt like there should have been more tension there. It was like, okay, we'll just leave, talk to each other, and let you know what we're going to do. They came back and everything was okay. A little bit underwhelming for me. So that's basically it. That's everything that I wanted to cover for the review of the episode.